Today is 937th day of girls being banned from secondary education and 477 days of being stopped from going to universities. Is a huge loss, irreparable loss for girls and of course for Afghanistan.
What would be a good way to pressurize them into giving girls education?
It's a very big and difficult question. The problem is that so far there is extreme coercion, harassment, beating, and they put people in prison. Zero tolerance for any difference of opinion, or if somebody raised their voice, they are put in jail. Some are killed. This was a strong message from Muslim World League. But still, who can make Taliban really accountable? That is the big issue. What they are doing in Afghanistan since the last 2.5 years, it is inhuman, it is un-Afghanic, it is un-Islamic as well. It is unnatural as well. So they will be doomed to fail one day. One thing which I really wanted to share with you through your podcast is,
in today's conversation, we spoke to a very special guest and my father, Ziauddin Yousafzai. Ziauddin is an education activist, a teacher, and the father of Malala Yousafzai. This is the second time we spoke to Ziauddin on our podcast, and in this conversation, we talked about a very serious matter, the Taliban in Afghanistan. The Taliban regime, after taking over Afghanistan after the US left, they have banned 4.3 million girls from going to school. They promised that the girls will be allowed to go back into schools, but it's been more than 900 days since they have not been able to attain their education. In this episode, we discuss how and why has this happened and how are they getting away with this. We hope you learned as much as we did about the suffering of Afghanistani women and men who are deprived of their future. Thank you so much for listening.
all good, I'm good. How are you guys? How are you doing?
We're good as well. It's been a busy few weeks.
Yes.
But
Neanderthal is going well?
It is, yeah. It's this is the second time now that you've been on. The first guest that's been on twice. It's a big honor, obviously.
Big honor. Thank you so much. I'm available 24/7.
Exactly. if we need a guest, we just go into
it
right now.
If you don't find anyone, I'm there.
This is why we will never miss a week. Because he's there to save the day.
Okay.
Exactly. But today we actually wanted to speak about something that's quite important.
Yes.
And something that you've been very vocal about.
Yeah.
And that is the issue of girls in Afghanistan not being in school for over 900 days.
Yes.
So could you just tell us more about that? What is actually going on over there?
Yeah, so a lot is happening right now in the world, like from Palestine to Ukraine and Afghanistan. And like we are living in such a difficult world. And in all this, people least talk about the Afghan women and girls. 20 million population of women and girls in Afghanistan are deprived from their very, very basic human rights, like going to school, university, going for work, banned from travel, banned from going to a public place like park, a lake, a riverside. So this is happening, and this is happening for the last 2.5 years. Today is like 937th day of girls being banned from secondary education and 477 days of being stopped from going to universities. So it is a big loss, it's a huge loss, irreparable loss for girls, for their families, for their communities, and of course for Afghanistan.
So when the US left Afghanistan, didn't the Taliban agree that after 6 months or 3 months that women would be allowed to be in schools?
It's a long story. Basically, when we go back to the history of Doha deal and how the US had a deal and they had that negotiations with the Afghan Taliban, not with the Republic of Afghanistan, with the government of Afghanistan, the democratic setup of Afghanistan, but they were directly engaged with the Taliban. And later on, the Afghan government people were also involved, but the deal was almost being done. Literally, it was done it was between two parties, the US and the Afghan Taliban. And the Afghan Taliban, in all those meetings and all those conversations, they were like committing themselves that they will be open to women's rights, and they will allow girls to go to school. Women will be working. Even they were saying that some senior women could also be in their government. Like, to that extent, they promised the negotiating parties, and they promised the world. And you might have heard the term Taliban 2.0 something. That means that a new type of Taliban, or a new kind of Taliban, different from 90s. But in the last 2.5 years, with every passing day, Taliban prove literally and on ground through their policies and practices and laws and all those things, they prove that they are the same old Taliban, the same old people. So far, they have issued some 130 decrees. They have formed, or they have I can say they have passed. They don't have any shura or any kind of, this is like few people, Mullah Hibatullah and with him, but the Taliban regime have issued some 130 laws, and out of those, 85 are straight away violating the women's rights. Like, they are restricting them, and they are depriving them from going to school, universities, doing any work, and going to any public place, and also traveling on their own. So this is happening for the last 2.5 years.
And is US not holding them accountable because they did the Doha deal with them?
US, that was like the man negotiator, or the man party in all these conversations, because they had to pull out of Afghanistan, and they wanted to pull out, and they had lost all their interest in Afghanistan. They are sending 40 million every week to a country where Taliban are ruling. This money is sent to as a humanitarian aid kind of thing, but 40 million goes to Afghanistan every week, and that's it. There is no pressure on Taliban, real pressure that can compel them or can change them, that they have some leniency or they change their policies regarding girls' education or women's right to work.
And if I'm not wrong, they've placed sanctions on Afghanistan as well, haven't they, where they can't do trade with other countries?
I don't think so, because so many countries are discreetly have developed diplomatic connections with the Taliban, though no country so far as we are talking have recognized them as a government, as a legal government of Afghanistan. But behind the scene, there are some diplomatic contacts with different countries.
So how much of the fault lies with these other countries? Because surely if they wanted to trade with Afghanistan, they could impose conditions on the rulers to say, if you want our money, if you want our investment, for example, you have to let girls go to school. Why does no one follow this course of action?
This is such a difficult situation, because when they send money, they say that Afghanistan economy is like zero, and the people are dying of poverty, of hunger, So they say, like the US say, that we're sending this money to save people from starvation. The politics all around the Afghanistan right now is not about the women's rights or girls' education. They are more keen about their strategic goals, security, narcotics, and all those things. So far, in the last 2.5 years or more than that, Afghan women's rights, girls' education is not the priority of the big powers, the neighboring countries, and the Afghan Taliban regime themselves. The only population or the only party and the only people who are standing up for those rights are women themselves. You might have seen girls and women like on roads in Kandahar, in Herat, in Kabul, and Jalalabad, and they are raising this slogan of Nan-Kar Azadi, work, freedom, education. So they are the only people who are the victim of Taliban's atrocities or Taliban's oppression. They are standing up for their right. The rest of the world is doing things, but they are not that impactful because so far we don't see any change.
What would be a good way to pressurize them into giving girls education? Like, what's the solution here?
It's a very big and difficult question. The problem is that so far, Taliban look very stubborn, and they think that not compromising their ideological their ideology and not accepting the world's pressure is the right way to operate in Afghanistan. So it looks they don't care about recognition. Maybe sometimes I think that this kind of status, that they are not recognized by the world, and they are not also accountable to the international rules and laws and regulations and treaties, because they are not the signatories of that. So this may be like a kind of a good situation for them, because they have occupied a country by power. There is no referendum, no voting. They just had guns, and they just went to Kabul, and the president of Afghanistan had to leave the country, and they took charge. So for them, the whole country is in their hand, and there is some clandestine kind of like hidden and sacred kind of they export, there is export business of the minerals and like precious stones and so many other things is going on. So this may be like the best situation for them. Like they have a lot of resources, what they have, and no accountability. They are neither accountable, like we don't see any accountability to their own population, to the population of Afghanistan, and no accountability to the rest of the world. So when you don't have any accountability internally and externally, right, then you enjoy and 40 million comes every week. So what else do you want? All these percent privilege to the ruling Maulana class, Taliban class, and the non-Taliban population is suffering, and they are there and they can't say anything because there is extreme coercion, harassment, beating, and they put people in prison. So zero tolerance for any kind of difference of opinion, or if somebody raised their voice against the injustices, so they are put in jail. Some are killed. Because you might have heard some of the stories, some teachers resigned from their jobs in the university in solidarity of girls when they were banned from education. We had a very good friend, his name is Matiullah Visa, and he is like, I call him the Bacha Khan of Afghanistan, because he went from village to village. Like, he worked in all 34 provinces of Afghanistan, and not just in Taliban's time. He was working there for the last 16 years. But when he tried to continue his work during Taliban time, he spent in jails more than 6 or 7 months, and now he's free. But we don't hear anything from him, because he has been so much traumatized, and he has been like, they tried to silence him. So you can understand that any voice that is against them, or that talk about justice, they talk about rights, that voice is silenced. Those people are silenced. So it's really a very difficult situation.
Speaking of silence, I feel like I've not seen much advocacy and basically I've not seen much advocacy from like the Muslim scholars in the Muslim world. Do you feel the same way?
Yes, there were few voices, and now I have more hope, because Al-Azhar University in Egypt, they were very critical of Taliban's interpretation of Sharia in Islam, and exploiting or misusing the name of Islam. They were critical. Recently, Muslim World League, which is led by Muhammad Al-Isa, and he is the Secretary General of Muslim World League and also the President of the World Muslim Scholars. They had a very big gathering. Hundreds of Muslim scholars gathered in Makkah Mukarramah, and they had this consensus. They agreed on that the way Taliban are governing in Afghanistan, and they have enshrined in their system the policies which are based on gender apartheid. So they condemned it, and they said this is not Islam, and Taliban must align themselves with the true message of Islam, and they agreed. Like they were all how can I put it in words, like they unanimously agreed that there in Islam, in Islamic Sharia, there is no ban on girls' education. There should be no ban on women to go to work, or no ban on their traveling. So this was a strong message from Muslim World League. But still, who can make Taliban really accountable? That is the big issue. Like that really unarms Taliban ideologically, like disarm them ideologically, because when so many great scholars come together and they condemn Taliban for their interpretation of Islamic laws and Islamic Sharia, it really disarmed them ideologically, but practically they are there. They are in Afghanistan, they are ruling the country, and they don't care. So there is the problem, that how to deal with them, how to make that change happen in reality. One other a platform or other option is the change in the legal framework, or changing the and it's time, like this year in April, those meetings held in the UN, also Malala in her Nelson Mandela annual lecture, she gave it on 5th December last year, and she demanded all member countries of the UN that they should recognize gender apartheid in Afghanistan, and they should recognize gender apartheid as a crime against humanity. So that is also like other option to change that legal framework, and then it comes with some kind of accountability, like what happened with South Africa because of the gender, because of the racial apartheid was declared as a crime against humanity. So if gender apartheid is also declared and it is approved by member countries as a crime against humanity, then it will also help to pressurize the Afghan Taliban regime to make them accountable and to put some more restrictions on them, like take action against them. It has its own then, like I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know the details, but that could be also very helpful.
How do you think that would work, since you said that they don't really care what the rest of the world has to say? How would we implement any change that gets them
Basically,
to care?
that had worked in the case of South Africa, when Nelson Mandela and his friends and his followers had that through African National Congress, that had a great moment, like one of the most successful and powerful moments of the 20th century, when South Africa was free from the racial apartheid. And if you read the constitution of the South Africa, that is one of the most beautiful and powerful constitutions in the world. They talk about justice and equal rights for everyone. So, like again, it's a long procedure, and it will take a lot of time. Like it's a long procedure, a process, and it also needs like a lot of lobbying and advocacy. Like so far, countries like Austria, Philippines, Brazil, South Africa, Afghanistan itself, like the old Republic of Afghanistan, they have like asked, and they have submitted their submissions that gender should be included in the treaty of the gender of the crimes against humanity.
Well, I wanted to say that, the Muslim world, rightfully so, is very outraged by what Israel is doing to Palestine. They're oppressing the poor Palestinian, innocent people are dying. But why they're not as outraged with the Taliban? Because literally the Muslims should be even more outraged, because the Taliban are using Islam, their religion, a peaceful, a beautiful religion, to basically justify their crimes against humanity and justify this gender apartheid. Why do you think they don't care as much?
We can't compare both, because what is happening in Palestine is extremely inhuman, and it's a genocide. People are being ruthlessly killed, cleansed. So that's next level inhuman thing that's going on. Where children, women, they are killed and they are eliminated, and even the world is asking for ceasefire, and it is not happening, and Israel is not accepting any law, any international community, any ask, any UN. They are like unbridled horse, and they are smashing everything. So that is really shocking. I mean, the level of human rights violation or human life violation, like that is extreme. Like,
I agree.
Also, that is why it's more highlighted. The second reason is it is like Israel. All of them are, some of them I don't know, they are Jews, and Palestinians, most of them are Muslims and Christians. So also Muslim in Muslim countries, they look to it in that lens as well. Like a different people of different faith are killing Muslims. So it is between two faiths, like they take it as a two religions conflict, which for me is not like it is. The Palestinians are a nation, and Israel is also like they are faith as well, but they are a nation as well. So, I mean, that's I won't go into that detail. But in Afghanistan, it is Muslim oppressing other Muslims. And if you look at this, if you look at other stories as well, whether that is Pakistani Taliban killing, they have killed more than 70 to 80,000 Pakistanis. And most of them are Pashtuns. Like in our region, people have been killed, and we are here because of what happened to Malala and to her family. And so the rest of the Muslims, they don't like, they are not that much sensitive, or they are not that much vocal about the atrocities or human rights violation when it is done by their own Muslim brothers. And also you find some people who haven't picked arms, but ideologically they are tuned with the Taliban. Like in Swat, when there were Talibanization and TTP was operating, and they were bombing schools, and they were stopping women and girls from going to markets. I have seen so many educated people who were happy that they were very patriarchal in their thinking. They were very religious, narrow-sighted in their thinking. And though they hadn't picked gun, but what was done by the Taliban, they were happy with that. You understand?
Yeah.
So that is also the problem that Muslims, that we are 1.8 billion Muslims in the world. I won't blame all of them, but the majority of the Muslims, they unfortunately somehow they don't challenge the people of their own faith. They're more about other faiths, like about resistance and about they will talk about a lot. They will talk a lot about Islamophobia, where Muslims are victims and they are oppressed, but they won't talk about what Muslim states and Muslim population do to their minorities in their own Muslim majority countries. You haven't heard a Muslim that if like a Hindu girl is forced in sin to be married to a Muslim boy, and she's forced by a Maulana, you won't see any who cry about it. They take it as normal thing. So you understand my point?
Yeah, no, I understand.
So it's very ideological. They think, oh, we are the right faith, so if we do it, it's okay. But if the other people do it, it's wrong.
I'm not sure if that's a majority perspective, though. I think there is definitely people like that. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time as well, there is just so many problems going on in the world. Like, for example, what's going on in Sudan. We haven't spoke about that. Like today, we don't really speak about that as often. I think there tends to be certain issues that people are more like in tune with or aligned with. And for example, in countries like the United Kingdom and United States, our money, taxpayer money, our government money and support is going towards Israel, who is then committing these atrocities. Whereas like the whole world almost unanimously condemns the Taliban. So it's not like I have to fight against my government to support these people. The world is already doing it. I feel like a lot of people see it in that way, as like, as an individual, what can I really do to go against the Taliban when they're not listening to these government organizations and all of this, whereas my government is actually supporting them, so at least I can put pressure on my government to do something. I feel like that is a big part of it as well.
But then if, let's say, you're in one of the Muslims country and your government is quiet, they can also see that as a form of support, because it's like staying quiet is also
but I think it's not on the same level. Like, whereas the UK and United States sent arms to Israel, and some Muslim countries did that in Afghanistan as well.
It depends on your resourcefulness. Like in the past, we see that in the last time, like Afghan Mujahideen and all these people were supported by Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
The people who have money, they also send money, a lot of money as well. I mean, it's quite complex. Like right now, what is happening in Palestine and Gaza, it has been condemned in big rallies by the Western countries, not any Muslim country. And the non-Muslims, like the non-believers even, they are out because it's something that it's unacceptable as humanity. So we see hundreds and thousands of people in London, in New York, and they are out and they are raising their voice against the genocide in Gaza. The country that has been at the forefront of talking about the genocide in Palestine and Gaza is the South African country. Is South Africa. South Africa is not a Muslim country. So this is not quite black and white. I think like if we forget for a while about the governments and its regimes and its establishments, then people in general, like they are not divided. They are more united against the oppression. They are not hard, that's a different story. When it comes to Taliban, like forces like Taliban, it's so unfortunate that they are not condemned. They are not made accountable by their Muslim brothers, because majority of the militant extremist organizations are very patriarchal in their approach. They are misogynistic, and like culturally, the Muslims of that region, of that area, they are aligned with them. Like how on earth in 21st century, in a country like Afghanistan, which has a population of 40 million people, guns have been stopped from schools for the last 2.5 years. And I don't see men out on streets. I don't see even like men delegations or men's kind of
outrage.
Outrage and their gatherings, even to go to the chief of the Taliban, Amir of the Taliban, and ask them, what the hell are you doing? So should we say or not, I don't know, that are they happy what is happening to the women and girls of Afghanistan? It's a big question.
Do you mean the men in Afghanistan or men worldwide?
The men in Afghanistan particularly. The men in Afghanistan. I won't say again that all men. I mean, there were men who were jailed, like Matiullah Vesa and some professors, Abdul Basir, and there is, I know a lot of people, Jami, so some have left the countries. There were some 10 organizations who were working with the Malala Fund as well for girls' education in Afghanistan. But as a population, as a nation, like when there are many voices, then it becomes so difficult to suppress them. But if one or two people, they rise and they raise their voice and they are suppressed, then that's it. That is end, like kind of. So it's really shocking and it's more disturbing. Like for me, it's shocking that Taliban have banned girls' education for so long. But it's more shocking that men are quiet.
That's
And
a
men are
very-
quiet because they are going to school. Boys are going to school. Boys are going to universities. Men are going to job. It's 2.0 in a different context. Last time when Taliban were governing from 1995 until 2001, men and women both had to follow their code of Islamic Sharia. This time men are exempted. It is just women's Sharia. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like last time we had these stories that funny stories as well. Maybe sometimes there is a little bit exaggeration as well. That men in Afghanistan, they had to keep beards, and even their beards used to be measured with the glass of lantern. That if it is up to one fist, like longer, like longer than a fist or not. And if people didn't abide or didn't follow that particular measurement of the beard, they were beaten or they were snubbed or they were told to follow. But this time, men are free. So that is more shocking that men in Afghanistan, they are so indifferent to women's rights and girls' education. They don't care. A girl goes to school and not go to school. And it had a lot of issues because according to UNICEF, they have a report that because of girls' ban in Afghanistan, Afghanistan is losing $500 million per year. It is just about secondary education. Then think of the university education. Then think of women in jobs. They have shut down all the salons, like hairdressing shops, which were run by women. And I think maybe I have heard that some 60,000 women lost their jobs. So think of all those jobs who were women who were working in restaurants and shops. They had their own businesses somewhere in the big towns, or they were in the government organizations and profit and non-profit, for-profit organizations. They have disappeared. So women have been erased from the life of public life of Afghanistan. So it's a huge loss as well, economic loss as well.
You mentioned earlier that there's extreme poverty as well in Afghanistan right now, and that no one is holding the Taliban accountable for these poor policies they're putting in place. So could it be the same thing leading to both? Is it because they've been given these extra freedoms this time that they don't really care about the poverty as much? Because that's what struck me earlier. Why are they not rioting? Why are they not protesting about the economic situation in the country at the moment? Because it's not really just women who are suffering. The whole country is suffering. People are dying. So why do they not, in a sense, they're also not advocating for their own rights as well by just ignoring the poverty?
I think men as a whole, there is poverty, and poverty is in so many countries, you see. And also men are happy with the peace. Now, peace, it is, people who are very naive kind of people who go from the West and they spend few days in Afghanistan. They say, come on, look, what kind of peace is here? You can't find this peace even in Europe. In America, this is one of the most peaceful country. But they forget that who were bombing schools and hospitals and doing suicide attacks and who were killing people, the people who are ruling now. So there is peace because the people who are disturbing the peace are the rulers. Now they rule the country. So that's why there is a peace and graveyard peace where women have no rights at all, and where other ethnicities, like apart from Pashtuns, like and other faith people, like Hazaras and Tajik and Uzbek. Afghanistan is a country of many nations. It's not like some of them call them Afghans and some may not call them Afghans, but as a whole, like Pashtuns, Uzbek, Tajik, all they are kind of Afghans. So Afghanistan is a multicultural and multi-ethnic country. So the regime, Taliban regime, it's not an inclusive government. It is just like few thousands of militant Sunni and Pashtun majority armed guys who run the country in their own style. So I agree with you that not only women and girls are suffering, but other ethnicities and other nations in Afghanistan are also suffering.
And why aren't they doing anything about it?
You might have heard about there is a national resistance movement. They want to restart their armed struggle, which we think that Afghanistan had enough of wars. Like for the last 40 years, Afghanistan had been, more than 40 years, Afghanistan had been in wars since the Soviet Union occupation of Afghanistan. So Afghanistan has bled so much that its veins are empty. It has no more blood to be shed, to be honest. So peace is the answer. Peace is the solution. Negotiation, dialogue, reconciliation. But how to bring Taliban to that? Because right now, all the promises that they made at Doha, they have broken all their promises with the people of Afghanistan and with the international community as well. So, I mean, with the passage of time, we all have to, like the UN, also other powers like the big powers who are kind of direct or indirect stakeholders, the neighboring countries, the international organizations, they all have to come forward, and especially Muslim population. Like organization like Muslim World League, OIC, they need to come forward and they have to effectively take those steps which can compel Taliban to come back to the dialogue, not only with the women and girls of Afghanistan, but with other ethnicities as well. And for the brighter and peaceful future of Afghanistan, it is inevitable. It's a must, because for that long, I believe that Taliban regime won't be able to survive, because we had seen them. They ruled for 5 years and then something happened and they're gone. This is not that this time there is some divine thing and they will be there forever. So there will be more poverty, world politics change, neighboring countries. Like one example, Pakistan was one of the biggest supporters of the Taliban, the current Taliban, who are ruling Afghanistan. And Taliban, like they were supported in every way. Like logistically, their families were in Pakistan, they had homes in Pakistan, their children were studying in Pakistan, and they had Quetta Shura as well in Pakistan. They had hideouts and once they took charge in Afghanistan, now they are not in good terms with Pakistan. Now Pakistan looks more against the Taliban regime, which they helped to be there, than the previous republic governments. So, I mean, that doesn't mean that Taliban think that, they are there once for all and nothing will change. Unless the people of Afghanistan support them, unless the international community recognize them, And they make Afghanistan as a normal country. Like, it looks very abnormal. They have excommunicated that country from from the world map, kind of. I don't call it even Afghanistan. It is Talibanistan. It is they have a piece of land and they rule it in their own way. They have finished the national anthem, the flag, even Afghanistan flag. They are there is an annihilation of the half of the population. Women and girls are not allowed to do anything like in public life. So if all this is happening, for how long this will happen?
Do you think there is a future for Afghanistan with the Taliban in charge if they do change?
I mean, I'm not the person who should say this, because I'm not an Afghan in that context. It's the people of Afghanistan, right? Ethnically, we are all Afghans, but I'm a Pashtun, I'm a Pakistani. So for me, I shouldn't give any opinion that Taliban will be like, I can only say that yes, Taliban are one of the parties, right? And the future of Afghanistan belongs to so many ethnicities and other nations. So the future of Afghanistan also belongs to all those people. So unless there is an inclusive, representative government in Afghanistan, Afghanistan can't have any future, to be honest. One ethnicity with that their own code of Islamic Sharia, which doesn't exist in the Muslim world, like in that shape. There are 1.8 billion Muslims, and you might have not heard that they don't want to send their girls to school, like apart from the militant groups like Boko Haram or ISIS. There are 56 Muslim majority countries in the world, and Afghanistan is the only country in the Islamic or the Muslim world which has effectively banned girls from schools and universities. So what they are doing in Afghanistan since the last 2.5 years, it is inhuman, it is un-Afghanic, because they have only 30 years of history. If you count from 1995 until like 24, so it is un-Afghanic as well. It is un-Islamic as well. And I also add one more word, it is unnatural as well. This is not natural. What they are doing is not natural, to be honest. So they will be doomed to fail one day. But after how much loss? We don't know that. Because right now, Afghanistan has lost a lot of things, like kind of economy. Like in few years, you won't see any nurse or any doctor, female doctor in hospitals. Because if you don't graduate more nurses and more doctors, where will they come from? And Taliban's leaders and their Amir, I mean, he doesn't have this simple wisdom or simple knowledge that where an Afghan woman will go to give birth to a baby, will she go to the neighboring countries? Because there will be only men doctors.
Yeah.
But they justify just to stop women and girls from education. They say, oh, we don't need doctors.
I wonder why there is such a strong motivation for them to carry this out, but who knows what their mindset is truly like.
I mean, this is really, they are like, sometime they are the Neanderthals of this 21st century. And
Neanderthals is a good thing.
But good, okay, sorry to say that, but maybe Neanderthals never banned girls' education, I think.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
They had all their girls in
school. With apologies
they believe in equality, they believe in...
Apologies to Neanderthals. But I'm like there is worth study that how one has how one develops this kind of mindset, and what make them, and what kind of education, so-called education and indoctrination they get. They have zero space for change, and they are so extremist and so hard that they say, no, that is our Islam that we believe in, and that's what we implement. Everyone has to follow, and if you don't follow, then face the music, then you will be punished, and that's it. It's really very dark, very difficult, to be honest.
Yeah.
One thing which I really wanted to share with you through your podcast is, look, Islam is the religion of 1.8 billion Muslims. Number one. Islam is the religion of 56 UN member countries where Muslims are in majority, where there are Islamic, like Pakistan is an Islamic republic as well. Now, if we are talking about Islam so much, right? If you switch on any channel in Pakistan, like most of the private TV channels and government channels, they preach Islam 24/7, right? Islamization, Islam in everything, Islam in history, Islam in science, Islam in maths. Like, now, don't Muslim world need a body like a body or an organization of Islamic scholars, of Muslim like scholars, and they agreed, and they should agree on consensus, which is called ijma. This is a method. Ijma means like the Muslim scholars come together, and together they reach to a conclusion about a particular issue. Like, for example, some people, they challenge that women are not allowed to go to school, or say women and girls are not, women should be married at the age of 9 or 10 or 11, right? And these Muslim scholars come together and they then discuss it, they have conversation, they have references from the Islamic history, Islamic books, Islamic jurisprudence, and then they come to one conclusion and they agree that, okay, let's go for this last verdict. No girl should be married unless she's 18 or she's 19 or she's 20. And in the Muslim countries all over the world, and Muslims, they should be
accountable to those rules,
and they should follow those rules. That this is the latest rules, because we have to live in this world. World is changing with every passing day. Islam 1400 years ago, it was a modern faith at that time, might be. But Islam now, like the way it is presented to us, it becomes like something that is archaic or something, how can I explain it, like outdated. Like banking system, like mortgage system, like so many other systems, economic systems, social systems, early child marriages, forced marriages, girls' education, women's work. So I'm referring to most of women's stuff, because Islam, like now, especially Taliban model of Islam or their version of Islam, it is extremely misogynistic. So there should be a body of the Muslim scholars who have this global Muslim ijma, and when they say girls should go to school, they should not be stopped. And one guy sitting in Kandahar his name is Mullah Hebatullah Khunzada, and he says no, then this whole body in all Muslim countries should come forward and tell him, stop it, man. You are not the guy who was the Holy Quran revealed to. You may be 60, 70 years old guy. How on earth you misuse the name of the faith which belongs to all of us? You're not the authority. Here is the authority which includes all the great scholars of the Muslim world, and we say girls will go to school. And if you don't accept this, then we have so many things. We can take action against you.
So like the UN basically
The UN.
for Muslim countries.
It would be more powerful than UN because we don't have any US in our world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be more powerful.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion, and the reason why I think it's good is if it is the scholars discussing all these issues, they will truly know what they're talking about instead of just like random people discussing it, and then they can come to an actual Islamic conclusion, not just like, oh, we just because this fits with the times. If the conclusion is Islamic, then
For example, if tomorrow ijma, the consensus of the Muslim scholars, they categorically condemn Taliban's policy, which is the governing policy about girls' education, to stop them from going to school who are grade 6. If it is condemned by that ijma, and if they are given a clear-cut statement by the ijma, and then asked all the member countries, Muslim countries, boycott this country. We won't talk to the Taliban leaders and Taliban guys unless Afghan girls go to school tomorrow. It's not that difficult, to be honest. But so far, real and substantial action haven't been taken, which can affect Taliban, which can affect their economy, which can affect them socially, politically. These are lip services. Like somebody will sit somewhere in Qatar or in Dubai or in UAE, same thing, or in Saudi Arabia. Oh, we are different kind of Muslim and Taliban are doing very bad.
Yeah, it's just like for narrative. Just to make
narrative, but there is peace now, and it's much better than the past. How the hell is this? I mean, girls can't go to school. 4.3 million girls are right now out of the school, and they are waiting that when their school doors will be reopened for them. And the Muslim rulers, they don't care. Ideologies are contagious. It is really alarming that if a whole country goes to this militant group who are extremists, and they are continuously radicalizing the boys' universities and boys' colleges, Afghanistan will turn into a big madrasa very soon. Thousands of madrasas they have created new for girls as well. People with that ideology, if Pakistan or the other neighboring countries that it will be contained there, it will not spread, it will definitely spread. So if a girl can't go to school in Kandahar and Kabul right now, after 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, same militant organization or same mindset people in Pakistan, in Peshawar, in Quetta, maybe in Lahore even, they will say no, girls should not go to school.
Yeah,
So that is a shame. That is, where are we going to? Like, what are we doing with the women and girls of Afghanistan? And what is the future of women and girls in Pakistan and other neighboring countries if this goes on and we are quiet and we are not speaking up?
Yeah. We pray for all of the women and girls in Afghanistan, everyone else in Afghanistan, and everyone all over the world. But before we end, Khushal has a question that he asks every guest at the end.
What would you want written on your tombstone?
Oh my God. I'm not dying, so I'll tell it in next
Next podcast.
podcast. podcast.
Okay, find out on the next podcast.
Yeah, you have to watch the next one then to find out. Thank you so much for joining us again, saving the day so we can carry on podcasting every week and just shedding light on this very, very important issue.
Thank you.